What methods do you have for coping with anxiety? Story 1. Journaling has been a game changer for me. It's like having a low-budget therapist who's available 24/7. I write down everything that's bugging me, and somehow seeing it on paper makes it seem more manageable. Plus, doodling in the margins is a nice bonus stress reliever. I've always found this difficult because I'm a fairly self-conscious person, so immortalizing my thoughts and feelings is tough. But maybe it would help. I'll give it a try. Immortalizing my thoughts. Doing this is exactly what you need to do, so that you can revisit those thoughts later and reflect on them with a clear mind. Maybe you're right. I often feel embarrassed about seeing how I felt about things at the time. Like my feelings were irrational or stupid and not valid. Maybe that's some of the reason I don't gravitate towards this naturally. I do this, but never read them back. First, I did it in a notebook. Now, I do it in a notes app on my laptop and lock the notes so it feels secure. I like doing it on the computer, 'cause I'm quicker at typing. So, I just unload my thoughts and don't worry about grammar or caps and just let it fly. If it's about someone, duck it, I'll write it. If it's deep and dark, I write it. Another tips I got with anxiety is a technique called take the thought to court. If you're worrying about everyone hating you, for example, a pretty common one, take that thought to court and write down through evidence for the case and against it. For example, everyone hates me, Your Honor. The evidence for this is I sometimes say stupid things or I don't text back. The evidence against this says, they never said they hate me. They invite me to things, and I enjoy myself when I'm there. So, in conclusion, they don't hate me. A lot of people swear by this. However, I've noticed that sometimes my anxiety gets only worse when I write down what's bothering me. It somehow becomes even more real, and I get consumed by the emotion. My wife has diagnosed anxiety and depression. One of the first things she learned in therapy is to not journal. In order to get past the things that are causing you issues, you want to move on from them. Not have them written down somewhere that will constantly remind you of what caused you to have trouble. Yes, for me, journaling made things worse, because I just stew in negative emotions and magnify it. Now I only write to-do lists and analyzes on how to fix things. I write constructively now. Story 2. Acutely or aggregately. Acutely. Try to focus on the present moment. Look around, take some deep breaths, and assess that nothing is currently wrong or disastrous, etc., etc. in that moment. Additionally, it may be helpful to engage in something such as a hobby, a walk, etc., to distract yourself. Aggregately. And hear me when I say this. Do something that will fill your bucket daily, weekly, etc. Your bucket will fill 2 to 3% each day, and be emptied out 1 to 2% from life's stupidities. 6 months will go by, and you'll be 30 to 40% better. 12 to 18 months will go by, and you'll be 90% better. Just trust the process and take care of yourself and never give up. I don't understand the bucket filling analogy. Please explain. Of course, if you feel like sad, angry, lonely, etc., your bucket is empty. If you feel great, fulfilled, happy, etc., your bucket is full. Another example may be as simple as toxic people or traits are putting holes in your bucket. Story 3. Cognitive restructuring. My favorite being looking for evidence of my worries or thoughts being unlikely, incoherent, or incorrect. For example, my friends probably hate me. What evidence do I have that could prove this? What evidence do I have to prove that they, in fact, do not? I do this too. For me, it is more about my reaction to a situation. For instance, I dropped a cake I just made. Being upset is totally valid. Is the intensity of that emotion justified? I freeze and decide what level of upset makes sense. A hearty duck is justified. Screaming and throwing cake at the walls is not. Well, if the rest of the day was super shitty, crying might even be okay. It's taken years of practice. But I feel like most of my reactions are more reasonable now. Apparently, I look rather comical when I do this sometimes. Because, depending on what it is I actually freeze, I stared at that cake for a hot minute before I reacted. Think to yourself, what if everything goes right? This is good. I try to assume things will go well, or there will be a positive outcome. That way, I don't need to worry beforehand. And if it goes poorly, you only need to worry after the fact. And afterwards, you usually realize it isn't that bad. Edit. Upon reflection, my thought process is not an assumption, more than to view an upcoming situation that may be uncomfortable or anxiety-producing as an opportunity to succeed or have a positive outcome. Then I prepare in order to have that good outcome. For example, if I have an upcoming speaking engagement, instead of worrying that no one will like it or it won't go well, I think of it as an opportunity to make new connections and improve my presentation. The reframing reduces anxiety. You're a logical thinker. I feel I'm the same. Can be a double-edged sword, unfortunately. But I guess we are how we are. Here's the thing. You aren't actually being logical. This is so key. People who have anxiety and a very good sense of logic and rationality have it really hard. The logic that you think that you're exercising is underpinned by anxiety, which makes it super flawed. But because you're so strong with logic and rely on it to get through life, you think that it's your best ally. But this flawed logic is super destructive because you believe in it no matter what. But it's on a flawed foundation, so it's completely illogical. And your logic when thinking rationally is usually such an asset that it's extra potent at destroying you from the inside out when misguided. Story 4. When I'm sitting in the moment of anxiety, I do this. I breathe. A deep, long inhale. A comfortable, collapsing exhale. I focus on my breathing and my working lungs, and not on whatever problem has triggered my anxiety. Once I feel calmer, I look at the problem that's causing the anxiety. I imagine the worst-case scenario. What if my deepest worry actually materialized? I then figure out what I would do if that actually happened. Once I realize that, even though it's not something I wish to go through, but there is a path out of it, I feel calmer and in more control. I think back to other times I've felt this way, and the eventual outcome wasn't as difficult to deal with as I had imagined. For me, it's the loss of control and the unknown that causes my mental and emotional discomfort. Once I have an idea of a possible plan forward, it doesn't feel so scary. Hope this is of some help to you. The worst-case scenario has been incredibly beneficial for me. My best friend and I make a game out of it, coming up with the worst possible outcome, and trying to exaggerate and make it worse in ridiculous ways, until eventually it becomes darkly funny. That simple technique has gotten me through so many rough patches and bad days. One of our recent ones. I'm going to go to this job interview and realize at the last second that my son threw up on my blouse and I didn't get the stain out. And then the person interviewing me is going to laugh and call everyone and to point and look at me. And they'll all be standing in a circle around me just calling me puke shirt and telling me I can't have the job. Then every time I try to go to another interview, word has already spread. And they call me puke shirt there, too. And eventually I can't get a job. My wife leaves me. I'm homeless. And none of the other homeless people want to sit with me. Because no one wants to hang out with someone whose nickname is puke shirt. I really don't know why this helps with anxiety so much. But it does. My friend aced the interview and got the job.